Alrighty guys, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 3 Saiyan warriors who were able to survive the conflict with Frieza after he destroyed their planet, and what were their lives like after Frieza had destroyed their planet until their appearance on Earth. And this is a video request from GeorgeMan1999, as he wanted me to talk a little bit more about Raditz specifically, but I thought it would be best to talk about all 3 characters since Raditz and Nappa don't really have a strong backstory. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. So let me first start off by saying that the Saiyans were involved in 3 conflicts: the Shik conflict, the Tritech conflict, and the Arlean conflict. Now, 2 of these were mentioned only in the filler, but the Arlean conflict is essentially where we see later on where Vegeta and Nappa decided to destroy their planet, the bug machine looking people. The Shik conflict, which was the previous scene shown where we see Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta walking, and the Shik conflict is essentially a place where the Saiyans took 3 days to defeat a race of people and Frieza didn't reward them for it, and the Tritech conflict is where the majority of the Cybermen died. So let me talk a little bit more about Raditz specifically. Let me first start off by saying that Raditz is a name pun on the word radish for obvious reasons, as all Saiyans are actually named after vegetables. Now, one interesting thing that I want to say about Raditz's personality is that compared to Nappa and Vegeta, Raditz has the most cowardly-like personality, as we saw him trying to basically use his tricks and use Goku's softness as a way to get out of his death from Piccolo's special beam cannon once Goku had grabbed his tail. Another interesting fact about Raditz is that Raditz actually was unable to overcome his Saiyan tail as a weakness. So, let me get on to Nappa now. One interesting fact about Nappa is that in the Chinese lingo, Raditz's name is actually the word for cabbage, as all Saiyans are named after vegetables. Another interesting thing about Raditz is that Akira Toriyama specifically said that he wanted Nappa to essentially be the, I guess you would say, the dumb version of a Saiyan, in which Nappa was not very smart as he almost got killed by Krillin's Destructo Disc. Another interesting thing about Nappa compared to the other Saiyans is that compared to Raditz and Vegeta, Nappa actually was probably the most aware that Frieza had destroyed their planet as compared to the other Saiyans, as he was suggesting it in that filler flashback. Now, this is not all seen in the manga, but in my videos I like to talk about both the manga and the anime, as it, essentially gives more of a backstory towards the quote-unquote real story. So, another thing about Nappa that I also wanted to point out is that a lot of people have always speculated what exactly would Nappa look like if he actually had hair. Now, I would probably find this really interesting because Nappa's bald, so if he went Super Saiyan as shown in the scene earlier when he was fighting Tien when he was gold, what exactly would he look like? Would he grow a goatee, or would he just have an extra shiny head? Despite all of this though, Nappa was a dummy, and he almost was killed by Krillin of all people with that dumb Destructo Disc. Now, moving on to Vegeta. Now, we all know that Vegeta's name is a pun on the word vegetable, as he's quote-unquote, I guess you would say, the main Saiyan. One interesting thing that I wanted to say about Vegeta as a child was that when they were talking about the Shik conflict earlier, Vegeta actually showed somewhat of respect for Frieza as compared to the other Saiyans. Now, despite his hatred towards Frieza, he actually was probably the least likely to revolt, as shown with Nappa and Raditz. And there was also a scene in the flashback in which we saw Nappa actually charging at Frieza, and Vegeta told him to stop, which shows that Vegeta had some form of a really close relationship with Frieza. The relationship that we may have never seen, but I'm sure it's deeper than what we see on the television show and the manga. Now, one thing I'd like to say about Vegeta is that out of all of the other Saiyans in the series, he seems to have a lot of pride in himself over the other Saiyans, but it's interesting that he doesn't actually consider himself the king of all Saiyans. Now, we all know the rules of the royal family. Once the father dies, the son becomes the king. And Vegeta referred to himself as Prince throughout the series, but looking at Kagenshu files, I've learned that the reason why Vegeta does this is because he has outward respect for his father. And it's also interesting to point out that Vegeta is the only Saiyan to have transformed in the series. So guys, that's been my video for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this talk about the Saiyans. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.